I'm so excited this afternoon to have my good friend, my brother, Bill Lay, with us this afternoon. Bill has been part of my journey for at least the 20 years that I've been in business and before that. And we have just become such good, friends. He's my mentor in so many ways. He was the CEO of General Motors, who we handled for a number of years, and we worked through quite a few challenges and launches and different aspects of their business. But more than that, Bill and I have done things outside of the business sense. We've done things around the Bomb Blast Memorial Park. We've done things in the American Chamber of Commerce, KEPSA. So I'm going to just ask Bill, when did we actually first meet? Because I'm trying to figure that out and I couldn't quite remember.
I think it was in the late 90s. I think you were still at Barclays.
And I was only 10, right?
Yeah, or 12, I can't remember. But yeah, I think we met there. And then it's a blank for me until I visited you at your office on Dennis Pritt. And then subsequently all the other offices, including this one here at 9 West. So anyway, before I can even answer that, I guess having watched the first conversation video, to congratulate you on 20 years. It doesn't seem like 20 years,
it really
but
doesn't.
It has been 20 years. And through the beginning of Gina Dean and now the Gina Din Group and the things that we've done, it's been I think as you mentioned in the video, when I met you, there was no PR business in Kenya. PR was something you got for free if you advertised. And I think all of us thought that at the time. So as far as I can recall, outside of the major advertising agencies, you were breaking new ground 20 years ago, and it seems it was the right thing to do. Now, but back to you and me. When I first came to Kenya in the late 80s, we had foreign exchange controls. General Motors was a parastatal.
That's right.
And we had blue plates on our cars. And I was getting to know Kenya in those first few years. And so as I think back on the things that I would say, well, what have you and Gina Dean done? Okay, we can talk about the projects, whether it's the Hummer launch or General Motors going bankrupt in the United States or all the things that we worked through. The fact of the matter was that what I learned from you early on was the importance of understanding politics in business. And I remember all the people that I met in the Kenyan government in the first 10 years I lived here, you introduced me to. And I think that, as I think back on Uncle Moody Awori, I think back on some of even at the end of, during President Moi's time, and all those relationships that I've maintained all the way through, have been more like friendships than business acquaintances. And that's, I think, what most people will remember about their business. Because, okay, business is business. You want to get some message out, have a press conference, there's 20 guys that can do that for you now.
Yeah.
But when you needed to meet the right person, have the right person attend a function, that was when, for me, that was the key.
Networking.
That was what you brought to the party that at least for me personally, I've benefited from in half of my Rolodex, I think now. Well, they don't call them Rolodexes anymore. It's our menu on our cell phone.
On your phone, yeah.
Have come as a result of the work that we've done together. But I also believe, as you mentioned in the video, and I think the reason that we're able to celebrate success like this after 20 years is in fact because of the service companies, advertising agencies. It's very hard to make them accountable.
Yeah, that's true.
You spend money and they say, oh, that worked or that didn't work, and then they blame you
Not tangible.
for why it didn't work or whatever. I think that watching you, I think everybody would agree that one of the early successes that you had with Safaricom.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't probably, between you and Michael Joseph, there must be some sharing of responsibility. But those guys at Safaricom, and I knew Michael back in those days as well, they needed Gina Dean to be successful. And I think that you can go back in the early days of promotion and introducing Safaricom to the Kenyan people. And then some of the other things that you've done as well, including General Motors, are the reasons that these are homegrown companies.
Absolutely.
These are companies that couldn't have, that would have had a very difficult time succeeding had they not leveraged the networking, the PR exposure, the functions that you would do, the exposure for your company that Gina Dean provided. Back then, you provided. Later on, your team was able to deliver those things as well, and I think that's another reason that we're able to celebrate this success. But I wanted to also talk for a minute about the non-business things that we did. You know, I've been involved with this August 7th Memorial Bomb Blast Park. I was the chairman for a long time. I was also the chairman of the American Business Association for, between Steve Smith and myself, I can remember we did it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And those sort of CSR, not necessarily CSR activities, but joining the social responsibility with the products, I don't think a lot of people, I think that concept was introduced.
Yeah, I think we were one of the early.
In the first 4 or 5 years, you were one of the early pioneers of doing that. In fact, that must be how I met Uncle Moody Awori. We must have been giving something away to somebody. I can't remember at the time. And then being able to benefit from the graciousness of those politicians that understood the need to stay close to the business community. And that turned into an art for me.
It's definitely an art.
So I don't know, I think the things we did for fun, the things we did to help Kenya, the things we've done to help Kenyans. For me now, it's not clear the separation between that and the business that we did. And I think that says a lot for...
But Bill, one of the things that you're very good at is networking. And as much as you might have had some initial help from me, you've built a great network yourself. And I mean, you've become, you might even be Gina Din II. In your networking, because
I'll sleep better tonight knowing that.
But you're a good networker.
I think, but you don't get those kind of things don't happen naturally for. Although now I'm a Kenyan.
Yeah.
After all these years, when I first arrived here, there's always that Mzungu thing.
Yeah, sure.
And you're a CEO from overseas, and you're running a company. That gives you some advantages anyway. But I think that it was the sincerity of the relationships. It's again, mainly the people I met through you and those close to you that were the ones that have stayed with me. They're the numbers that are still in my phone.
I think something that we both do is I think we have a very large network but a very tight circle. And I just feel, I'm so glad that you're part of the tight circle, because Bill has been just my go-to person in my business. If I was going through something that was really difficult, it was Bill that I would call, and he always would have time. And Bill, as I celebrate my 20 years and the success that we've had, I also want to celebrate the people that have brought me to where I've got to, because it's not something that one can do alone. And collaborating is just it's so important. Everyone's quite territorial about their turf and they don't want to share. But you've always just been so gracious and so generous with your spirit in giving me any advice I need, even though there are times when our worldview might be different. That has been a real advantage to me, is that I needed somebody that had a different worldview, because a lot of the people that I had within my circle had the same worldview that I did. And you always gave me a different perspective. And I think that's what I have really appreciated about you. Hi, I'm Gina Din-Kariuki. I hope you've had lots of fun watching Shaping African Conversations this afternoon. I hope it's inspired you. I hope it's made you realize that having somebody in your corner is so important. If you liked it, please share it. If you want to engage with us, please do. And thank you so much for giving us the time that you have.